Let us discuss the relevance of game theory. The relevance of game theory to IR. Okay. First point is that the setting of the game theory and relations across the nations is the same. That is, there is no hierarchy. It means both are subjected to anarchy. In a prisoner's dilemma, both the prisoners do not have one communication system and they are not subjected to one coordinating system. So there is anarchy. And next, question of strategic interdependence. What one prisoner does will impact the other. That is, there is a question of strategic interdependence. This is another thing. Okay. But even with the strategic interdependence, what is found is that cooperation is possible. Okay. When two prisoners agree, then there is a better outcome. And in an iterated prisoner's dilemma, prisoners will choose to cooperate. Okay. In fact, we have understood that things have been not related, unrelated, strategic interdependence, and then the cooperation benefits. And in fact, from this cooperation, hierarchy is emerging. Okay. If you see evolution of human social systems, there are groups first, groups, and then cooperation, like this is emerging. So it means people found that there is something to gain by cooperation, and through cooperation they created this hierarchical structures. So the world of international relations is not something unusual. It is not something for the first time. Anarchy had been the order, and under anarchy cooperation takes place, and then under cooperation hierarchy emerges. That is the order, which means in international relations also we can try, or we can think of such a thing. And then another thing is that in trying to find out how to secure cooperation, you have to think in terms of how to design the structures of cooperation, IGOs. Okay, this comes under IR school of liberalism. Whereas anarchy, strategic interdependence, this is realism. Okay. And then another thing is that for cooperation to be harvested, to gain from cooperation, actors need to follow certain values, as we discussed. Values came as a part of bringing out the cooperation in a long-term basis, on a long-term basis. So this is what the game theory says. This is what the game theory suggests. Okay. Coming to more specifically in designing IGOs. This is how you design intergovernmental organizations in a way defection is punished. Okay. This is what Axelrod has to say. The results of the computer tournament for the prisoner's dilemma demonstrates that it is actually better to respond quickly to a provocation. It turns out that if one waits to respond to uncalled for defections, there is a risk of sending the wrong signal. So we discussed that tit for tat strategy or generous tit for tat strategy is helpful. Okay. Tit for strategy means when provoked, punish, when defected, punish. So Axelrod is saying that it should be done immediately. So things like this are the outcomes of computer programs based on game theory. Under what circumstances cooperation becomes permanent. So this again is useful in international relations. Okay. Next, there is one mathematical concept called Nash equilibrium. Nash equilibrium. Nash equilibrium refers to this is the most common way to define a solution to non-cooperative game involving two or more players. International relations is about non-cooperative game involving more players. This is true. In a Nash equilibrium, each player is assumed to know the equilibrium strategies of other players, and no player has anything to gain by changing only their own strategy. So Nash equilibrium in a game of multiple players is a strategy that leads to an outcome in such a way that one can't gain unless the other loses. So Nash equilibrium is a kind of an optimal strategy. Okay. But how does one find out Nash equilibrium in international relations? This is here the limitations of game theory in international relations come. See, basically game theory, the problem is game theory is about multiple players, M players, okay, M players, N choices, okay, choices like this, like this, like this, like this, N choices, and then M players. And under each category you have certain values, that is the values to various outcomes like this. So in a situation like this, if one is seeking cooperation is about maximizing the values. But in a non-cooperation, finding out your own given what others are doing. Okay. So this is how game theory is supposed to explain the situation as well as suggest what one should do. But the problem is Something like this may be possible in certain market decisions, in economic reasoning. Okay. But in IR, where it's all about many issues, and where you cannot assign numbers. You can't assign numbers to your values or others' values. You don't have the full information. So these elaborate mathematical models don't really give any accurate value by which a nation can take a decision. So that is why these models are not developed as a part of international relations theory, though this is common in economics. So, which means that there is a limitation in the application of mathematics and game theory in international relations, because there are so many things which cannot be quantified and many things we do not know. So that is why what game theory gives is that it gives an overall perspective, a way to think about things, but does not help in a quantitative sense or in a precise sense to give any solution. So it helps to think in a analytical way. That's all. It doesn't offer any accurate solution. So this is the limitation. So that is why game theory is more widely used in economics and in marketing relations rather than in international relations.